Though board-track motordromes remain one of the most captivating moments in motorcycling history, their time was tumultuous and brief. By the outbreak of World War I in 1914, America's circular wooden motorcycle tracks had already begun to fade into the history books. What replaced them emerged from early experiments with the board-track design, and just as motordromes were first created from upscaling bicycle velodromes, their replacements would be born of an even more significant scaling. The first experiment with a larger design appeared in 1910 with the 1-mile-long board track at Playa del Rey. Built in hopes of accommodating automobiles as well as motorcycles, the Los Angeles Motordrome at Playa del Rey found only moderate success, while the smaller, steeper tracks Jack Prince erected across the U.S. exploded in popularity. But with their rising unsavoriness came yet another experiment in design, again returning to the idea of hosting automobile races. Debuting in June 1915, Prince's new track was massive compared to the average motordrome, oval in shape, with flat straightaways and banked turns. These new timber speedways would be mammoth projects, requiring millions of board feet of lumber, hundreds of tons of nails, thousands of cubic yards of concrete for the foundations, and multiple acres of land, none of which came cheap. The first of the new board track speedways opened in 1915 as racing fans poured into Chicago's immense 2-mile wooden oval at Speedway Park in Maywood. A rousing success, Speedway Park set the mold for the coming decade in professional motorcycle racing, providing a blueprint for America's second generation of board tracks. Do you like videos like these? Let us know by liking and subscribing. Share with your friends. And if you want to support the project more, head over to the Archive Moto Patreon page and help keep this history alive. Despite a brief interruption during America's involvement in World War I, the board track speedways arrived with the crescendo of motor racing's golden age, and as a result, were in operation for nearly 3 times as long as the motordromes. Compared to the frenzied and often perilous motordromes, the larger, safer speedways gave the sport a proper venue for achieving breathtaking speeds and showcased cutting-edge motorcycles from factory racing programs at their pinnacle. It was on the board track speedways of the late teens and early 20s that man and motorcycle first hit speeds of 100 miles an hour in competition, where countless world speed records were set, where heroes became icons, and where the high-dollar, high-stakes game of factory motorcycle racing became one of the world's most popular sports. This exceptionally rare film footage was taken in 1921 at the Los Angeles Motor Speedway, more commonly known as the Beverly Hills Speedway, one of the 22 board track speedways built between 1915 and 1928. Tinseltown's massive new timber track was a 1.25-mile wooden oval, built at the cost of $500,000 and occupying 275 acres of land, where the Beverly Hills Wilshire stands today. The track officially opened in February 1920 and hosted Hollywood's elite for its first automobile races. The event captured in this film was the Motorcycle and Allied Trade Association's opening races at the Beverly Hills Speedway on April 24, 1921, the first motorcycle events held at the venue. Average speeds exceeded 100 miles per hour throughout the day, with a field of racers that could only be described as legendary. Ray Wisher, Joe Walters, Jim Davis, Otto Walker, Gene Walker, Curly Fredericks, and Shrimp Burns lined up for the big day. The men represented the best of America's big 3 manufacturers, Harley-Davidson, Indian, and Excelsior. It was the grand age of factory competition, overhead valve machines, lionized competitors, and lightning-fast races. Though the legendary company had steered clear of the dangerous days of the motordrome, the Harley-Davidson Motor Company had officially entered the sport of professional racing in 1914 and was in top form by 1921. With racing program director Bill Ottaway at the helm and racing icon Otto Walker leading the team, Harley's legendary wrecking crew was dominating the sport, winning nearly every national championship title and breaking almost every speed record that season. Harley-Davidson sent their big guns to Beverly Hills, a lineup of 5 8-valve Banjo 2-cams, ridden by Ralph Hepburn, Ray Wisher, Fred Ludlow, Jim Davis, and Otto Walker. However, what the film does not capture is the rainbow of colors that could be seen that day in Los Angeles, thanks to Milwaukee's spirited team. Perhaps in response to the glitz of the emerging entertainment business in Hollywood, or maybe a stunt encouraged by the factory to draw more attention, each member of Harley's wrecking crew straddled vividly painted motorcycles with matching jerseys. Ralph Hepburn wore an orange and white jersey with a matching orange machine. Ray Wisher wore a red jersey with white sleeves, though his mount was still painted in olive drab. The debonair Fred Ludlow mounted a baby blue Harley and wore a blue jersey with white sleeves, painting his leather helmet white to match. The newest recruit, a young Jim Davis, wore green and white to match his green machine. And the white knight of the motor company, Otto Walker, mounted a freshly painted all-white banjo toucan with a white-sleeved purple jersey. Not to be outdone, Excelsior sent a trio of equally rare and powerful overhead cam twins ridden by its stable of factory riders, including Joe Walters, J.A. McNeil, and Wells Bennett. There were two privateer entries, Red Cogburn playing the Dark Horse's role dressed in all black and riding an appropriately matched black machine titled the Ray Day Special, the other being N. Cooper on a machine listed as the BB Special. It was, perhaps, Ray Creviston, though, who ran the rarest of the exceedingly rare motorcycles at Beverly Hills that day, as he jockeyed the Cyclone-powered Reading Standard overhead cam machine, a one-off beast that disappeared almost as soon as it was built. Indians ringer, Shrimp Burns, newly recruited from the Harley-Davidson team, was on hand with one of their proven 8-valve machines, joined by Gene Walker and Curly Fredericks on board the factory's new side-valve Power Plus. In terms of talent and technology, the deck was stacked for the races in Beverly Hills, and as the grandstands filled, the atmosphere was electric. The Great War was over. The fourth and final wave of the Spanish flu had subsided. Hollywood represented the new American royalty, and spirits were high. The scene was described in an article published in Motorcycle Illustrated on May 5, 1921. A crowd of 12,000 thoroughly sophisticated followers of track speed events stood up on its hind legs and howled, threw hats in the air, stamped them underfoot, clapped their neighbors on the backs with resounding thumps, and otherwise went crazy over the exhibitions of daring riding and terrific speed staged by the world's motorcycle speed devils on the Beverly Hills Mile and a Quarter Speedway in Los Angeles on April 24th. As for the races, the day began with a 13-mile miss-and-out event, in which the last across the line of each lap was eliminated. Harley's captain Otto Walker was set to win, but in a last-minute tactic, Shrimp Burns took to the top of the banking on the last turn, shooting down the slope and holding wide open to pass Walker across the line by inches. The former wrecking crew member turned Springfield star covered 13 3/4 miles in just under 6 minutes, an average speed of 103.78 miles per hour. Next, in the 25-mile championship, Burns and Walker again went tire to tire until the 8-valve Burns was riding seized on the 11th lap while he was running nearly 110 miles per hour. Burns went down hard on the boards but limped himself over to the infield hospital to address the multiple splinters and lacerations inflicted by the timbers. Otto Walker won the 25-mile race and set a new record of 104.43 miles per hour for the distance, becoming the fastest man of the day. The 50-mile race followed, and another Indian racer, Maurice Curly Fredericks, went down equally as hard as Shrimp had just moments before, but was also able to hobble his way to the infirmary. Fredericks complained that his spill was due to dirty racing, a common aspect of the sport at the time, but the officials could find no evidence. Harley's newest recruit, a young Jim Davis, took the win in the 50-mile, while teammate Ralph Hepburn, who had the field by 2 laps before a flat crippled his lead, came in second. The amateur field was full of privateers buzzing around the track, most on board their own Harley-Davidsons, and no doubt admiring the factory lineup in the pits. Alfred Ashton was the only amateur competing not on board the Milwaukee Marquis. He ran a luxurious Henderson 4, on board which he took home the victory in the 10-mile amateur race. Among the professionals, the honors and accolades were divided nearly evenly between Harley and Indian. Still, Harley's intrepid captain Otto Walker, in his purple jersey and white toucan, marked his name down the most in the records at Beverly Hills that day. Walker claimed the fastest lap, highest speed, most laps led, and most records broken, along with his win in the 25-mile championship. Walker may well have closed the day as the hero of Hollywood had it not been for the return of his old teammate, Shrimp Burns. The crowd jumped to their feet with a roar of applause and cheering to welcome a heavily bandaged but undeterred Shrimp Burns back to the track for the day's final race. Shrimp's 8-valve Indian didn't fare as well as he did after their spill, but Frederick's Power Plus was without a rider and ready for action. The final event was a 15-mile consolation race, again becoming a neck-and-neck battle between Indian and Harley-Davidson. Much like he had done against Walker in the 25-mile, Burns held tight to the front of the pack until the final lap. Then, he climbed the banking on the last turn and shot down the ramp past Harley's Ralph Hepburn and Fred Ludlow to cross the line by only inches for the win. On the stock pocket valve Power Plus, Shrimp hit 102.55 miles per hour, setting a record as the first stock engine to do over 100 miles per hour in competition. Albert Burns, best known as Shrimp, gave one of the most sensational performances of his career in front of 12,000 spectators at the Beverly Hills Speedway. Tragically, however, it would be one of the last races for the 23-year-old legend, as he died only 4 months later during a flat track race in Toledo, Ohio. Thankfully, though, this invaluable film from America's golden age of motorcycle racing survived the past century, so that we may have a rare glimpse of icons like Shrimp Burns at the height of the sport. The April 1921 board track races at the Beverly Hills Speedway represent the high watermark of the sport in its formative years, a remarkable moment in which iconic men jockeyed history's most coveted machines wide open on the boards and into the books of American legends.